Hey, what's happening, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. What is today, man? It's Monday. What's the date? Never know the date. The 21st, which is hilarious because of this episode, me saying I don't know the date. Brought to you by Earthquaker Devices, my favorite people, my favorite sponsor. Been sponsoring the podcast for over 2 years. Looks like a lot of you guys are starting to buy some stomp boxes from them. Badass. They are the best, handmade from Akron, Ohio. Check them out. Get one of their pedals. Get an Acapulco Gold. You want to sound stony? Get an Acapulco Gold pedal. What's up, buds? Welcome to the new Acapulco Gold pedal. The Acapulco Gold is a dirt, simple power amp distortion. Cranked up. This pedal goes to 11. God, these guys got great pedals. Look at the names. Acapulco Gold, Avalanche Run, Dunes, Gray Channel, Tentacle. These guys are fantastic. You play guitar, keyboards, jazz music, metal music, funk, soul, country. Doesn't matter. Everybody uses a foot pedal, a stomp box. Making an Earthquaker device. Find them on earthquakerdevices.com or follow them on Twitter and Instagram. Rock and roll. Let's get into the episode today. That was a little bit of At the Drive-In that you just heard right there during the front of this show. And, oh, man, they're back together. And this week, they're going to be playing in town. I'll be hosting the show. They're doing the Fonda on Wednesday the 23rd. They're also out in Pomona, I believe, on the 22nd. Hit their website, atthedrivein.com. And, this is fucking great. I didn't see him on that last reunion run. What was that, a few years ago? They played Coachella. A lot of dates they played that summer. But as Cedric was talking, there was some things going on in the band, and it probably wasn't as good as it could have been. This time it's going to be face melting. Face melting! So I can't wait, man. This band is so fucking good. I've said it over and over and over. If you've ever seen them play One Arm Scissors at the on David Letterman, whew, fuck, insane band. The energy is ridiculous. The songs are amazing, and it is just straight in your face fucking danger. So check them out. They're going out on tour all over. Hit their website. Make sure you see them. I'll be at the Fonda on Wednesday, and I'll tell you guys about it on Thursday. And it looks like I might finally get to interview Omar at the gig. So fingers crossed. A couple things going on this week before I get into the episode, which, by the way, the episode's going to be great today. It's another series, another episode in the series of Handmade. Although Kevin and I didn't make watches, we love them, and they are handmade, the ones we love. And we discuss Rolex's Tudor, Panerai, Patek Philippe, all the watches that came out this weekend at Baselworld 2016. If you don't know anything about watches, it's still going to be interesting because it's basically a passion episode. Kevin and I love watches, and whatever you love, maybe your friends don't understand it. Like, what do you mean you collect Pez dispensers? Yeah, I collect Pez dispensers, you tell them. You know, whatever you collect and you love, it's a passion. And Kevin and I have a fierce passion for watches, especially Rolexes and Tudor. And we wanted to dedicate an episode to it and give you a little bit of insight if you don't know anything about watches. So you're going to enjoy this. Kevin Christy, great friend of mine, amazing comedian, great painter, great artist, and just great human. Before I get into that, though, I just want to say my current obsession is Pink Floyd's record Metal. Meddle, not metal, not metal, but metal. And I just went down a rabbit hole one night, was watching some David Gilmour stuff because I'm going to see him this week at the Hollywood Bowl. And I was looking at a set list, and I realized, holy shit, he's going to be playing stuff off Metal. I can't fucking wait. And I refired it up, went and got a nice, sweet copy of Metal on vinyl, threw it on, and been playing it all fucking week, especially side 2, which is just one song, Echoes, and it is insane. So if you don't own Pink Floyd's Metal, I recommend you get this thing right away. It is so smoking. What year did this thing come out? I can't even remember. Let me see if I can find it. Such a great fucking record. Shit, I can't find it. Hold on. Let me look it up because I don't want to fucking drop the ball on this. Anyway, Pink Floyd, man. I've been fucking hooked on them and Grateful Dead for about a year now. Came out in 1971 on Halloween. What a fucking great record to come out on Halloween. I've really just been going crazy over just psychedelic music lately. And it's funny how relaxing it is. Psychedelic music, relaxing. Like I'll be sitting around the house and I'll just put it on and I'll be like, fucking amazing. And if you really want to fucking lose your mind, put on Pink Floyd Echoes on YouTube, the live one at, what is that, the Pompeii or whatever. What's that place called? Here it is. In 1972, they went out there and played in one of these old like bullfighting looking arenas. And they played with no one in the stadium. I'm looking at the video right now. 2,754,000 views. Insane. Anyway, they played out there in the middle of the day and just did this fucking incredible psychedelic concert. Psychedelic music, but no psychedelic lights or anything. Just proving that Pink Floyd can crush it just as musicians. They don't need all that other shit. It's extra cool. I'm babbling on right now just because I'm so obsessed with this record in the last week. Just can't get enough of it. Great record. Opens with One of These Days. A pillow of winds. Fearless. Saint-Tropez. It's just fucking smoking. The album cover art's cool. Anyway, get it. That's my obsession right now. And also, I'm back on the bike. If you've seen my Instagram, I'm out riding again. Feels good. And thanks for all your support, people. Keep telling your friends about the podcast. And what else? Leave the reviews. What are you doing? Leave a review. We're trying to get to 1,000 reviews. I mean, the amount of listeners I have and the amount of reviews, I got like 560 or something, but let's try to make that thing go to 1,000. It's fucking, it helps the podcast big time and it's fun. If you want to donate to the podcast, go to patreon.com/Dean Delray. Super easy and it helps fund some things around here. If not, All good. Upcoming gigs I have. I'll be headlining the Irvine Improv April 13th. Headlining at La Jolla Comedy Store April 22nd, 23rd. And also headlining in Denver at the Comedy Works, June 28th through July 2nd. Those are some of the upcoming road dates. Can't wait to see you guys. Anyway, let's get to the episode right here. Time to light the candles. Kevin Christy. Let's do it. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk, and this is another installment of my handmade series. I've made nothing by hand, and either has my guest that I know of. He is an incredible drawer, a great friend, and an artist, and a comedian, and the angel that picked me up on the highway. If you remember that episode.
According to Jesus. Bro, you're Dean's angel.
Yeah.
Yep.
But my thing was today, I want to explain a couple things. I'm an absolute watch fanatic. So is Kevin Christy.
For sure.
And we've talked about it many times. It's how we bonded at the
it's how we became friends for the first time.
Yeah, because at the Comedy Store, you got to find something that gets you.
Everyone's a comic, so that's nothing to connect on.
Yeah, and not only that, but when you're a total stranger at the store, you got concert shirt, cool Vans, or a watch.
Yeah.
Now I want to explain something, because a lot of times when I tweet or Instagram watch photos, people are like, "Fuck that." $5 grand, 10 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand for a watch. You're out of your mind. But what people don't understand is, and mostly my love is of Rolex, and same with Kevin. If you smoke cigarettes every day, which I used to in like 96, you don't smoke for 1 year and you've got a Rolex.
Yeah, and I don't drink.
Yeah,
so drinking too, it costs a fucking fortune.
Way more than cigarettes almost.
Yeah.
These watches aren't that much money. I think growing up, especially for me, you always heard Rolex. Whoa, that guy's rich.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand is you can get right in at $2 grand.
Yeah, I mean, most of the I've never bought a really expensive Rolex. And also I realized before I bought one, I was wasting money on watches that were maybe cheaper that I didn't like as much.
That's right.
You end up buying a lot of stuff that you don't end up keeping, whereas you get a Rolex and you're pretty much satisfied with it. Like every time I've had one, I don't have one now because Dean knows why he sold it for me. Because
I've sold all your watches.
Yeah, Dean sells watches really fast, so he sells all my watches when I need to sell them. And my dog needed tons of medical attention, which now his nickname is Rolex because that's how much he costs.
His name is Rolex. That's what we should call him for now on.
His name's Cub, but I go, come here, Rolex.
yeah. Hey, Submariner, get off the couch.
He cost as much as a brand new GMT 2.
Now, so anyway, if watches aren't your thing and you think people are crazy, just look around your house at whatever you collect, and somebody probably thinks you're crazy, like your Star Trek dolls,
your Precious Moments sculptures.
Yeah, your those paint by numbers.
I love a paint by numbers painting. I fucking love paint by numbers,
great,
dude. They're
right?
so good. But my dad collected those Yadro sculptures.
Yeah,
they're fucking dopey as hell.
Well, you got an incredible bit too about the Disney Vault.
Oh, yeah. People who collect those Disney, they have those Disney sculptures that are like limited edition of only 5,000.
Yeah.
Like, look, if you like it, rad. If you think it's going to appreciate, you're high.
I always laugh at the term Toyota Limited.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you fucking talking about? Do you know what limited means? Limited means usually to me. And I was talking to somebody recently. They go, man, how'd you sell your Subaru so fast, I always get stuff that's crazy rare, so when I get in trouble, I can turn it real quick.
Yeah,
Not in trouble, meaning money-wise, like, no rent this month.
Yeah.
Boom, this is out of here. So limited, Toyota, and even with Rolex, there's millions of Rolexes out there.
Yeah, they sell more watches than probably anybody. Omega sells a ton of watches, Tag does too, but Rolex sells tons and tons and tons of watches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And So my point is, if you want to get into a Rolex, there's two ways to do it, and cheaply. And one would be the one that you wore quite a bit, was the Datejust.
Yeah, I love an old Datejust. It's a smaller model. If you want a big watch, it's not for you, but like it fit. I have a small wrist, so it fit my wrist really well. And you can find those used from the 60s and 70s and early 80s for between $2,000 and $3,000.
Yep.
And the great thing about them is they're durable. They're steel, so you can bump them into stuff, and they keep super good time.
Yeah, and they're self-winding.
Yeah, self-winding. You just have to wear it, and I think they look really rad. Like, Paul Newman wore one in Color of Money. Like, it's such a good 70s like watch. It's really, I'm a big fan of them. I'll probably get another one.
Yeah, I mean, and still people are probably going like $2-3 for a watch. Yeah. Fuck that. But the reason I'm calling this a handmade series is these watches, man, if you look what goes into making a time mechanism.
And also, what else is 50 years old and still works?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I've owned most of the Datejusts I've owned were from the 60s. So that's a 50-year-old watch that still runs perfectly, like keeps perfect time.
It's crazy that whenever that was made, you ever think people go like, in the future they won't even take, they won't even count time.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine like that? Like, could you imagine if we changed actual time styles, whatever, and all of a sudden all the watches were just useless because they go, well, they don't do time like that.
Well, there
anymore.
used to be two kinds of time. There was sunlight time, and then there was mechanical time, and they were different.
Whoa, really?
There was, I read a book on the history of time. And there was the time that was literally followed by the sun, and then there was mechanical time. There was a town where like the clock, the like people didn't carry watches.
Like a sundial?
No. It was like an actual clock. The mechanical clock was like there was a few times a year, and it was 15 minutes different.
Wow.
Than what most people thought of as the time. Because farmers keep like actual like sun and moon time. Because that's what time is to them. It's you work at sun up to sundown. But like mechanical time was like a little faster.
Wow, that is so crazy. And it's perfect that we're doing this episode right when we just pushed the clock forward. Stupid time. We're just so fucking dumb on
Everyone's still exhausted.
Yeah, right? Now, the point of today's episode is every year these, if you're a watch nerd like we are, there's a weekend when they debut the new watches. Now, these companies, Rolex, Omega, Patek
Philippe is one of the big ones.
And all these guys keep this shit so fucking top secret.
Super secret, yeah.
Super secret.
Yeah.
It's like Harley Davidson. You never know what's going to come out.
Yeah. It's, proprietary technology. They want to because that way they can maintain that they're releasing something no one else has, and it's really secretive. And especially when it comes to like Rolex and Tudor, they're releasing stuff that's like people have been like anticipating subtle changes in the models for a long time and hoping new things come out. So it's always kind of a big nerdy watch time. Lots of dudes on the internet will speculate on what's coming out and then do these like nerdy Photoshop versions of new watches, which is cool.
Oh yeah, it makes us crazy too.
Oh yeah, drives me nuts.
Because like we'll see a model and a guy will be incredible with Photoshop and he'll change stuff on it and you'll be like, oh man, I hope that comes out.
What did you send me that you thought
the Yachtmaster stainless steel with the monochrome black bezel.
It looked super real and I was like, I think that's fake.
God, it looked super real and it looked super fucking boner.
Yeah,
bonericious.
I'm not into the rubber strap, but
no. Now, so once a year they have this thing. It's called Basel World.
Yeah, it's in Switzerland.
In Switzerland, and all the companies get there, and they release their watches. And so every year, usually Rolex is a lot like Harley Davidson to me, where they're really stuck in the old world, where they're like, this is our design.
Yeah.
We don't go off the map, and this is what we like. And every year, people get totally bummed because I follow the watch Rolex forum.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, shit, I can't believe they didn't do nothing this year.
One of the secrets to Rolex's success, and I believe what Tudor's following now, is they make very few changes, and when they do change things, it's very subtle.
Yep.
So and that part of it, that is smart branding, because then when you see a Rolex, you know what it is. You're like, that's a Rolex. I know what a Rolex looks like. That's a Tudor. I know what a Tudor looks like.
Yep.
And I think that is part of the secret to their success. But for people that follow the brand super hard, you're hoping for like something new and crazy, but they do it very slowly.
Yeah.
So a lot of people
it disappoints people.
Yeah, a lot of people want like a change to come already, because a lot of the models, and one we're probably going to talk about a lot, like the Daytona has stayed the same. The stainless steel Daytona has stayed the same since the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Late 90s or late 80s, early 90s is when that steel Daytona, I think, changed over, and it's looked basically like that so now you're going on close to over 20 years.
Yeah, and the point that I think I want to make here is that a lot of people want the changes because the vintage ones have become so much money.
Yeah.
Specific models that people don't want to wear those, or they can't afford them.
Yeah.
Being one, the Daytona, Paul Newman Daytona, which can go for up to like $1 million.
Yeah, now they're up in the high hundreds of thousands, depending on box and papers and condition and shit. So it's become a watch that's basically out of almost everyone's reach.
Right.
So what a lot of companies have done, Omega, Tudor, Rolex, a lot of companies, IWC even, they've been making models that are a little more inspired by the vintage look in their past, because they are so much more affordable to buy than
and
a
you
new
can
model.
wear them without
and you can wear 'em.
worrying about, like ruining this piece of art, actually, because the way these Rolexes age, they patina, and each one is totally fucking different, man.
Yeah.
Like I saw a watch recently that was only 10 years old, but a surfer wore it every day surfing in Malibu, and everything on it was totally faded. And that was incredible to me. I was like, wow, look at the fade and patina on this thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
So Rolex, this is the first year, really, I think, in a long, long time that we kind of lost our mind. I got up on Wednesday morning.
I was woken up by text messages at 7 a.m.
Yep, it was 7.
I was like, who's texting me at 7 a.m.? And it was Dean, because it was, 7 p.m. in Switzerland or whatever. So the Basel releases happened, and I was just getting texted. I was being texted pictures of watches like I was awake and said, hey, text me pictures of watches.
Well, you were the only one I could nerd out with on it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just couldn't believe what I saw.
Yeah. Well, this is as far as new releases go for Rolex, this is probably the best year since the Milgauss or when the new GMT came out.
That's right.
I mean, when the new subs came out, it was pretty cool, but they weren't so mind-blowing. It was a different bezel and the case was wider.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like crazy. But when the Milgauss came out, that was a
crazy.
Big deal. When the GMT2C came out, that was a big deal. But this was by far the most releases that were different models size-wise and design-wise that we've seen in a long time.
Right, because usually they'll do one watch and then everything else will stay the same.
Yeah.
Like the Yachtmaster 2.
Yeah.
The Deep Sea was their venture into a big watch.
Yeah.
Total the Milgauss, total failure. The Milgauss, which is like, what the fuck? Lightning bolt arm.
Yeah.
I call it the AC/DC rocker model.
Some people call it the Rasta.
Yep.
The Bob Marley, it's called sometimes. It's awesome.
And then before that would be like, this is as radical as they'd get before, a sub with a green bezel. Ooh.
Yeah. They changed the bezel color, and that was about it.
Yeah. Now, most people know Rolex by the most famous one, which would be the Submariner, worn by James Bond.
Probably the most famous watch ever.
Absolutely. Louis C.K., very famous for wearing it.
Robert Redford and All the President's Men.
Yep.
Steve McQueen.
Who else? Everyone. It's most...
Che Guevara.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's the dude that ran Cuba forever? Him?
Ran what?
Cuba.
Oh, yeah. Fidel?
Fidel Castro wore Rolex. Lots of people.
Who was the gangster that
Bill Cosby loves a GMT. Magnum PI loved a GMT.
Oh, Magnum PI wore the GMT.
Yeah.
And then Paul Newman.
De Niro wears a sub. they're just a very common. DiCaprio wears a sub sometimes.
Yeah.
So does Brad Pitt.
Now, let me explain to you guys. You can get into a sub for $5,000.
Yeah, at this point, shit. You can get a 90s Submariner between the years of 95 and 2000 for $5,000. I saw one the other day for $4,700.
Yep, and that watch sold new for about $3,000. You know,
in the 90s, yeah, would have been
90s.
Maybe about $4,000.
Well, I got one in 96 or something. It was like $3,200.
Oh, okay, shit.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Now, also a very popular watch is the Explorer 1.
Yes.
Which was a watch worn to Mount Everest.
It was the Explorers wore it to Everest. That one had a white waffle dial, and if you have that, those are impossible to find.
Yeah.
But the next best thing to that one is a matte dial 1016.
Unbelievable.
It's a great looking watch, incredibly classic looking, super simple dial, just black and white. And it has 369 and then a triangle marker, and it's 36 millimeters and oyster bracelet, and the thing is perfect.
And now we went through the phase of big watches, Panerais, and all those Hublot and all that shit was giant watches. But in the 90s, 36 was standard men's size.
A men's watch didn't get much above 36 millimeters unless it was a dive watch.
Right.
There were really big Omegas in the 70s, but they were flight watches and dive watches. The Flight Master was very big size-wise.
Monaco.
Yeah, the Monaco. Yeah, the Hero Monaco was pretty big. But those, for a watch to be large, it was considered a sport watch. It was usually a chronograph. But before that, even chronographs were 36 millimeters. I mean, the Newman Daytona is 36 millimeters, 37. Yeah. The Milgauss was 37 back then, the original one.
And to put it into perspective for you guys, 36 is probably what every grandfather and your dad ever wore. Then Panerai kind of came back into business, and their watches are 48 millimeter, which is giant.
They're huge.
And that was really hot for a while because of Stallone and all these guys.
Schwarzenegger. They're originally designed for the Italian military to be, and the big dial. They were big on purpose because you needed a big dial that glowed in the dark to see inside a dark submarine.
Yep.
So that's why they were so big. They were originally made with Rolex movements.
And those are worth a fortune.
They're worth a crazy fortune.
J.J. Abrams has
but nobody wears them anymore because they're big and dopey looking now.
Yeah. I had one and it was it never fit under my motorcycle jacket.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple, and I have the wrist of a sickly lady, and it looked really stupid on me, but I love I just like the shape of the case.
The thing with Panerai is they're spectacular. Their glow is unbelievable.
Easy to read. The shape is cool. The little thing that covers the crown is cool.
Yeah, the latch.
Yeah, it's just they're great looking. They're just too big for my wrist.
Yeah, matter of fact, when I would wear one on stage, I could see people staring at it.
Yeah, it's distracting.
It is. It's a giant watch.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back into Rolex. So they released their stuff, and some of the all-time biggest Rolex collectors collect the Paul Newman Daytona.
Yeah.
And it's there's a famous one which would be called the Panda.
Yeah.
It's a chrono watch, and it has 3 dials.
Yeah, so 3 little circles on it, and it has a black. I think there's 2 versions. One with a black bezel, one with a metal bezel.
Right.
And it's got this kind of white dial. Some of the Panda dials have a red sub-track around it.
Yeah.
That's called the tricolor dial. But they're legendary. And the funny thing is this. They were a dog when they came out.
Yeah.
They were a total failure. No one liked them. But Paul Newman wore one. I believe that was first captured on the cover of an Italian racing magazine.
Right.
And then it became the Newman Daytona, and people started kind of collecting them because of that.
And they actually called them that.
Yeah, they call them Newman Daytonas.
Paul Newman. They don't even call them Daytonas.
Yeah, and they just became incredibly collectible, and over time have become probably the 2 most sought after Rolexes, I think, are probably a Newman Daytona
and Big Crown.
A Big Crown Submariner because of James Bond.
Yep.
It's I forget what number is, like maybe a 5508.
I saw one yesterday. It was $350,000.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And it had a tropical dial.
Yeah.
Like a burnt butterscotch brown dial. It had faded that much.
And those are those are the watches of like hedge fund managers.
Yeah. One sold at Christie's in 2012 for $680,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So they're not wearable. You can't you can't really buy one, and the risk in buying one that's wrong or fake is so fucking high.
So high. Now my thing I always say is Harley Davidson and Rolex are a lot the same because they made some of the most classic fucking shit. And year after year after year, I'm like, why don't they just mine their history?
Yeah.
Like Harley put out a modern day knucklehead.
Yeah.
They could do it. You have this bike that's exact to a 1936 knuckle, which is considered the most iconic Harley of all time.
Right.
With modern day, stuff, ABS. When you look at the bike, it looks like a vintage bike.
Better seat, whole thing.
Yeah, and it's all their own shit. So they go, we're not copying nothing. We invented this shit.
I wonder what the problem with Rolex is they're so secretive.
Yeah.
About their design process and why they do things. I would be very curious to hear why their rationale behind that. I mean, it makes sense to like, look, we have this great history, but we also want to be making advances because we don't want people to be only caring about our old watches.
Right. Well, that's what happened with Harley. They never really tried to go for the younger crowd.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they were passed up by people who took serious chances, Ducati and BMW, in design and like state-of-the-art shit like ABS brakes and traction control and all that shit. And now Harley's like, oh fuck, because all their people are dying and the young people aren't like...
They're kind of an old dude bike company, a little bit.
And that's a lot how Rolex is looked at.
A little
bit because they just always have the sub, the Datejust, the Daytona,
Yeah. So that's I think what some people, I mean me especially, old Rolex collectors love super classic look. So that's why we always want Rolex to keep things super similar and bring back tiny things like red type. Yeah. Because also you see what other companies do, like the Omega releases at Basel were jive as hell.
Oh, yeah.
They were disco, dude.
They were.
Just wacky-ass colors.
And last year, they were the winners.
Yeah, last year was
Snoopy
great. Yeah.
And the one I loved, White Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Fucking unbelievable watches last year. They absolutely squished everyone.
But that's what was Omega's undoing in the 70s is they went super jive, these weird quartz watches with weird designs like... If you want to see a kind of an ugly ass watch, look up early '80s Omega Constellation. It's just asinine looking, and the original Constellations are so cool looking. They have a pipe hand dial and a cool like observatory on the back, but they just got like too stylish. Whereas Rolex, the same with Harley, is like we are a style. We don't need to follow what's cool.
Yeah,
like you saw, they tried to do that with the Deep Sea. Yep. And no one wears them.
No one.
Like, and I don't even know. It's so. It's not. A lot of times, Rolex's failures are what become collectible.
Absolutely.
But I wonder with the Deep Sea because it's just hard to wear unless you're a really big dude. It looks, and the bracelet was too narrow in comparison to the head of the watch.
Now, a perfect example of that is the Rolex Milgauss. Milgauss was a watch made for people that worked around high magnetic fields, like X-rays and nerds that worked in
nuclear
stuff, and they were completely just a blue-collar watch.
Yeah.
And now they're fucking $100,000 with a honeycomb dial.
Yeah, if you have an original one, they're very expensive.
Yeah. Now, I want to get into this before we get into what they've done. Do you remember what got you into Rolex? Because for me, it was James Bond, 100%. I was a Bond freak. I always loved Bond, and they would always show his Rolex.
The first person I ever noticed having a Rolex was a design teacher I had in art school named Bruce Claypool.
Up there in Pasadena?
Up there in Pasadena. And Bruce Claypool was a really hard teacher, but he was a nice dude, and he had a Porsche.
Wow.
And he had a sub. And the only thing I knew about his career was he redesigned the Cincinnati Bengals uniforms. But he was a really hardcore teacher, and he had a sub. And the thing about subs is the bracelet's perfect. The Rolex Oyster bracelet is perfect looking.
Yeah.
It's flat. It's shiny. It hits the light. The way light hits it is perfect. And the same thing with the Rolex bezel. It has these little scallop cuts in the side of it, so you can grab hold of it and turn it. And the way light hits it is great. And I remember just looking and being like, that watch is cool as shit. And this is like the late 90s, so I remember being like, I bet you that watch costs $1,000.
Yeah.
And then I kind of looked them up, and they were like $2,000 or $3,000, which to me was $1 million.
Totally.
So I was just like, oh, that's a watch you get when you have a lot of money, you know?
Yeah.
And then from there, I think the next time I saw a sub on something that I thought was cool was so after that I noticed him was Paul Newman and All the President's Men. He wears a 70s 1680, and you know that's a fantastic movie, and he just looks cool with that watch on.
Yeah.
And it's like he was like, it wasn't like, hey, I'm this flashy dude. It was just like, this is a durable ass watch.
Yeah.
It's the black bezel, it's for diving, and you're just like, oh, it's durable.
Yeah.
And then I started to notice it as we've talked about this. The sub is the dirtbag watch.
It is.
It's a watch that a dirtbag who's made a little money buys. You're like a successful mechanic, tattoo artist,
every time,
skateboarder, surfer,
a chopper builder,
yeah, bike builder, all that. Those kind of dudes, like successful artists, when they get a little money, they're like, hey, I'm fucking doing all right over here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go buy a Rolex, and that's the one they've seen, and that's the one they buy. So when I look at those, I don't think like rich dude. Part of me thinks like guy who maybe never planned on having shit in his life was like, holy fuck, I'm doing okay.
It makes you feel good, too.
Yeah, a little bit.
And what people don't understand is the rich guys, they don't even wear Rolex.
That's really.
Such a fucking entry level.
Yeah, they clown them.
Yeah. My second real introduction to Rolex, and this really made me fucking love them, was the Deer Hunter.
Okay.
There's the scene where they're with the revolvers, and they've got the GMTs up on the table, and he's like, Ganga, Ganga,
yeah,
Ganga, Ganga, and they've got their GMTs up there, and they're gambling like who's going to blow their head off first. And that's when I realized, whoa, military guys wore GMTs back in the day.
Chuck Yeager wore a GMT to break the sound barrier.
Yeah.
They were one of the watches tested to go to space. It didn't pass. The Speedmaster did.
Wow.
But yeah, the GMTs, and GMTs were also the like official watch of all the Pan Am pilots.
Yeah.
The Pepsi bezel one. So those are always been cool as shit. I love a GMT.
I do too, man.
Selling that GMT was stupid.
Yeah. You can buy it back. He wants to sell it.
Okay, cool. I may, dude. But you know what though? Dumber though is selling that fucking Speedmaster. What did I get? 2,800.
Yeah.
I saw it on HQ Milton, the most reasonably priced site on the internet,
yeah,
for $6,200. I got fucking shafted on that.
You know what though? When you sold it, that's what they were going for.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, that's weird. A good thing to tell you guys. When you buy a Rolex, don't think you're going to make money. I know a lot of people that go, I'm going to buy this, man. It's going to be worth money. But if you wear a Rolex and let's say you buy it for $5,000, 10 years from now, you could sell it for $5,000 all the day long, and probably way more.
More.
But don't think about it as way more.
If you can keep, if I have no patience for watches, neither do you. Mm-hmm. We want a new one all the time. But I have made money on watches if I had them at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is the market can change. Like right now, for some reason, 90 subs are cheaper than they used to be. A 90 sub 8 months ago was $6,000. But the market's been flooded by them because I think the brand new Rolexes have been out, like the new subs have been out now for long enough to where you can buy a maybe 3-year-old sub for around 6-ish.
Yep.
So if you can get a one that's 3 years old versus one that's 12 years old for around the same price, maybe $500 more, you're going to get the new one.
Yeah. So
that has pushed the price of the 90s ones down. So you can get a sub again for $5,000. The sub's basically a $5,000 watch. And
now,
$5,000 to $6,000. And I think it will be for a long time, no matter what the retail is on them. Even though now the retail's up to like 70 whatever, it's like $7,500, $8,000. It's still, they make so many of them that if you wait a little while and get one on what's known as, the gray market, get one pre-owned, you're going to save quite a bit of money if you want to spend that much money on a watch.
Now, if you're going to buy used, it's always going to be crazy better deal on one that's a couple years old. But one of my pointers to you, and if you're a new watch buyer and you don't know, as you wear these watches, they're stainless steel. They collect scratches and everything, and I like them looking like that.
Yeah.
But these guys can polish these watches to where you walk into a store and they look brand fucking new.
Yeah.
But you've got to watch out for that. Try to get a watch unpolished, which I didn't know early on, because these guys polish them, and most of them are rookie polishers.
Yeah.
And they polish the bevels off the fucking links.
Yeah.
And the watch starts to look rounded.
Yeah, you want to when buying a used watch from any decade, especially a Rolex, the thing you want to make sure it has is the original dial and the original hands. And if it's unpolished, perfect. Or if it's just been lightly polished, you want original bracelet. Because all that stuff, I once bought a Rolex Submariner 1680, and it was a reasonably priced, a little lower than other ones I'd seen. And I was like, I bought it from a store. And I was like, oh, why? I wonder why this one's cheaper. The reason was it had a replacement dial. A replacement dial from Rolex, so that means someone, while owning it, sent it in to get serviced, and Rolex doesn't give a shit about this stuff, so they put a new dial on it that glows, because people like that. Well, on the bottom of the dial, it says Swiss instead of T25, which is a huge difference in the value of the watch. So what did I have to do? I had to track down a new goddamn dial. Cost me $500, which is the same price it would have been if I'd have just bought the one next to it, which was the same shit.
Yeah. And these are things you don't even know when you first start out.
No, everyone I know has made a mistake on a watch.
Yeah, you walk in, you go, oh, yeah, that looks good. And also, I want to make a big point that if you do buy a new Rolex, which I always recommend buy new from a Rolex
authorized
store.
dealer.
If you do buy a Rolex, and you get it serviced, which they say they moved it up to every 5 years now.
No, 7.
7. Oh, yeah.
7 years.
So if you do, it's 5-year warranty now, 7 years service.
Yeah.
When you get it serviced and you're not anal over scratches, you must tell Rolex, do not change anything on this.
Yeah.
The dial, the hands.
Yeah.
I don't want it polished or anything, because what they're doing is they're just tuning your watch up to make it look really good for you. Which and a lot of times there's stories of the old days where Rolex were like, "Ooh, look at this rare dial," and they would switch out the dial and go, "Hey, we gave you the new dial so it glows," and you just lost a $10,000 dial.
Yeah.
So you got to really put in the notes, do not touch this watch at all, because the genius of vintage Rolexes is the patina. If you see a totally mint-looking new old one that's just been refurbished, there's nothing cool about that. You're like, ew, gross.
Yeah.
But if it's all patinaed up and crazy looking,
that to me is that's the crux of what makes them worthwhile. Is the movements are well made enough, and the structure, the case, and the bracelet of these watches were well made enough to where you can see, even when they're super old, they still work. So the dial is super fucked up and like crusty, and it's flaking,
spidering,
spider web cracking and stuff. But the watch still keeps great time. And that's what's cool.
And it's like it tells a story. Because people go,
it's been
wow,
through some
look
shit.
at your watch. And you go, oh, this watch?
Yeah.
It was on the set of Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
And I got that
right
emotion.
now, I'm wearing an Omega Seamaster from 1962. The thing I timed it. It loses 1 second a day. It's 60 years old.
It's insane.
Yeah. And it looks great, and it keeps great time. It cost me $1,000. Big deal.
Now, before we get into the Rolexes, one other way to get into great watches is a brand called Tudor.
Tudor is it's made by Rolex. It was originally designed for I believe, the British military, and it was kind of their more blue-collar watch line.
Yeah.
And they look a lot like Rolexes.
Almost exact.
Almost exact in design, but they're specifically cool to watch nerds, because they were like the dirty cousin of Rolex.
Yep.
And
they were called Tudor, but they had a Rolex movement.
Yeah. And then they changed it to less expensive movements, which I think was kind of the secret to having them be cheaper. But now, in the last, 3 or 4 years?
Yep, 3 years.
Tudor they started with the first reissue watch they did that was kind of inspired by their old models was, I believe, the Monte Carlo.
Yep.
They did the Monte Carlo kind of tribute model, and then they put out what's called the Black Bay.
which was a complete game changer in the watch world.
For real.
And we truly believe, and I truly believe this, that Rolex is, they experiment with the Tudor brand.
Yeah.
And then they bring it over into Rolex
Yeah.
now. So what they did was they put out a model called the Black Bay that looked like one of their old Tudors.
Yeah.
And it was a gilt dial with a red bezel and a big crown, and the watch world went
It
crazy.
looks like a Rolex Big Crown, and it is fucking epic.
Smoking.
And I honestly think that the Tudor Black Bay, especially now with the new in-house movement, it is the best value in wristwatches.
100%, especially if you got it on eBay for about $800 cheaper.
Yeah.
You're getting a watch that is one of the finest watches out there for the money.
Even brand new, I mean, you're talking a new Rolex Submariner retails now for what, 75?
I think it's 81.
$8,100.
Yeah, with
so I believe the Black Bay retails for like what, 36? 3,600 bucks. The thing is tough as nails. The thing is, what's cool about it is it has you can get a red bezel.
Yeah.
The red bezel with the gilt dial, which is crazy looking.
Ooh.
My favorite is the blue bezel with the white dial that's got a matte dial. And then now they have a black dial with the gilt. And then this year they came out with a bronze case one.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable looking.
With the 369.
It's got a 369 dial like an Explorer dial or like a Mil Sub.
43 millimeter.
43 millimeters, so it's big, like kind of like a dive watch or a pilot's watch. And then they also came out with the Black Bay Black, which is like
PVD'd.
PVD coated steel.
Yeah, which is really big in the aftermarket. No one really makes PVD except for Panerai. And a lot of people...
IWC does too.
Yeah, a lot of people would PVD their Rolexes,
Yeah.
which is the dumbest move ever.
Well, you can't. Rolex won't service it anymore.
Right. But also, Tudor put out a watch last year that fucking knocked me out, the Pelagos.
The titanium.
It's titanium, and a lot of people don't like a heavy watch. This watch, it weighs about an ounce.
Yeah, and it's big. It's big like a Submariner. It's like a big dive sport watch, but it's light. And it's got a blue dial and a blue bezel. That's insane looking.
With the date.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, Kevin and I, I wear a watch more as a bracelet now because, of course, we all look at our phone and stuff.
Yeah.
But the main thing I really want from a watch is a date. But no, all the watches I love don't have date.
Yeah.
Like Daytona, the Milgauss, you know.
Yeah. That's the thing. I love an Explorer 1, but it's got no date. I love the Milgauss. It's got no date. So part of me, I'm tending to gravitate towards more towards a Sub or a GMT or a Datejust because you get the date. And I'm trying to look at my phone less. Oh, we should also mention Tudor came out with 36 millimeter Black Bay.
So
and this thing is insane looking, man.
Yeah. If
the
ladies
dial is
listen
crazy.
to this, yeah.
It's the perfect watch size for a lady wrist or my wrist.
Yep.
But dude, this thing's so good looking.
It really is. And women, the big style for women in Hollywood, like actresses and stuff. Like I remember, what's her name?
Olsen twins used to love to rock a Panerai.
Yeah, right. Panerai. Like Hollywood actresses like to get like a
Sharon Stone wears a Sub, and
Yeah.
it looks so cool on her.
What's the girl from Charlie's Angel that was with Justin Timberlake?
Oh,
What's her name?
She's tall. She was in The Mask.
Yeah. Anyway, she wore a
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz. I remember DJing a party, and she had a Daytona on whiteface.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks so dope. Women wearing sport dive watches is so cool.
Women in Rolexes like Subs or GMTs.
That knocks me out.
Yeah, when I
'Cause
see
they're
that,
cool.
when I see that, I'm like, hey, girl.
Yeah. Well, they're like outside the box.
Yeah, they're just like, I want a big, tough, badass watch. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, they're not going the dumb Kardashian route of I'm going to get a Cartier.
Yeah,
that's
no.
fucking dumb to
No.
get like a Cartier watch.
But this Tudor, like if I saw a lady wearing a Black Bay, I'd be like, what? What is your story?
Yeah, for real.
How are you? Like, you're into cool shit.
She would have to be a guest on here, you know?
But also, the cool thing about the Black Bay is it has what's called the snowflake hands.
Yeah.
And the hour hand has this cool triangle shape on it. But I mean, there's not many watches. Okay, I love the blue bezel one, but there's not many watches out there that put out a watch with a gilt dial.
Right.
And so that's the cool thing about the Black Bay is you get the gilt dial in this little rose gold colored type.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of companies do that, so it's pretty rare to see it. And the hands have rose gold around them too.
If you don't know what a gilt dial is, it's what Rolex did in the 50s and early 60s. It's a dial that has like gold writing.
Yeah, it's the printing. It says Submariner, but it's in gold type. And those, I mean, a 60s GMT will cost you about $8 or $9 grand. A 60s gilt dial GMT will cost you about $15 grand.
Yeah.
A gilt dial Submariner 5513 is again like $15 grand, whereas a normal 5513 is $8, $9, $10,000. It's just those tiny differences that make a difference. And the thing is, it seems like a thing that doesn't matter, but when you wear a watch, you look at the dial all the time.
Yeah.
And it's those little things on dials that are just like simple, little, beautiful things that every time you look at your watch, you're like, man, that is beautiful looking.
Oh, like when you see a Milgauss green crystal in the sun with the orange lightning bolt hand, it's like fucking... It's porno.
It's those. I mean, it's the reason sometimes I gravitate more towards subs and GMTs is because the bezel on a sub, it has an asymmetrical design, so it has these little sub like dial markers on the right hand side.
Yeah,
and that to me is just it's a little asymmetrical. It looks a little cool, makes it look a little techy. And I mean, the thing I love about both these brands, Tudor and Rolex, is they're just durable.
Yeah,
you don't have to like. I used to have a gold A. Lang & Son, which is one of my favorite companies on the planet. But every time I wore it, I was worried about bumping it into anything because gold dents so easily.
Totally.
But like these are watches you can wear every single day. And the great thing about both of them is you can pop off the bracelet, put them on a strap, and you can wear them with suit. You can wear them with basically anything.
Yeah, and they're just... a lot of the thing about these watches isn't about telling time with us. It's design.
Yeah, it's
and it
style.
comes down to being into really good art or incredible cars. It's all design. And Rolex has really fucking smashed it out of the park all these years with this Submariner style design.
Yeah, I mean, if you'll notice, when you look at a Submariner design, you'll see that you've seen it on every other watch company because it got so popular that every watch company's tried to kind of copy that style. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with other, Ball came out with a watch that looked just like Milgauss and like copied the GMT orange hand. And these are things that appeared in other companies maybe in the past, but Rolex is really the one that popularized it. So a lot of companies, like, you'll see a Seamaster and it'll look a lot like a Sub.
Absolutely.
Like the new James Bond Seamaster looks a lot like a big crown sub. It's sweet looking.
It is.
But in the 60s the Seamasters did kind of look like that. Rolex and Omega were really neck and neck back then.
Battling.
At one point Omega was considered better than Rolex. But they both made exquisite watches, and that's why anything from those two companies pre-1970 or 80 is good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the Basel world here. So they released these watches. I'm up.
We were not invited.
Yeah,
I think it's invite only, dude.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't think you can just go.
Wow.
I think you have to they don't let the general... I mean, first of all, you're talking about probably $500 million in merchandise on a floor. I don't think you can go. I think you have to be invited.
Well, what's really crazy about Basel World, and if you hashtag Baselworld 2016 on Instagram, what happens outside of Baselworld at nighttime is even more crazier because all these super gazillionaire watch collectors show up and they have parties like around pools and stuff where they'll bring like 50 watches each guy.
Yeah.
And they just sit around, they smoke cigars, and they'll have watches that are worth almost $1 million sitting there.
Yeah, they have these like passion events where a bunch of really serious collectors will meet in some crazy hotel in Europe, and they lay them all. Every time I look at those pictures, I'm like, how does everyone know which is which?
It's crazy, right?
I mean, you'll be looking at like $20 million on a table worth of watches.
It is insane.
To me, but honestly, to me at that point, it doesn't seem that fun.
Yeah, it's too much, right?
I mean, maybe, although let's be honest. We're talking about guys that are probably financial guys. Yeah. They're millionaires. We're talking multi-millionaires.
Yep.
So to them, this is their fun.
It's all ego, too.
Yeah.
It's like, look what I got.
Well, that's the thing. Getting some of these watches, it's like I tell people, they'll ask, especially with a company like Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe, which I was incredibly disappointed with their releases at Basel this year. Design-wise, something's happened after the head of the company was a guy whose last name was Thierry, and he left, and something has happened to the design. They don't feel as classic. They feel like they're all laid out on a computer. I don't know what it is. The design isn't as warm. It doesn't feel. There's no sense of like hand done anything. They used to have really beautiful fonts. There's something lacking in them.
It's a lot like Panerai. Like for 5 years straight. This year they released some great watches. I showed them to you. I was like, oh my God, look at this shit. They're back. But Panerai, which by the way has really crashed in value, a lot like not as bad as Frank Mueller did, but they've really gone down. Panerai was really hot for a while, and the big watch is gone as far as style. But Panerai was putting out this stuff. You're like, we're not fucking Popeye the Sailor, man. Like,
no
just
one
this
needs a
dumb
47 millimeter watch.
Yeah, 52 millimeter.
But Patek's last big chronograph release, which it looked just like the Victorinox chronograph that you buy in any watch store in the mall. Which that's an okay watch, whatever. It's $300. It'll last you a long time. But a fucking chronograph Patek Philippe is like $100,000.
Yeah.
And I don't know what their releases left me very cold. But the thing is, what I'm saying is, if you even have the money to buy that watch, I can't get it.
Yeah,
because they make so few. Those watches are already going to people that buy tons and tons of watches from dealers.
Yeah, they're like Ferrari.
Yeah,
you can't just go get the hybrid Ferrari.
Yeah.
You have to own the 458. You have to own the California. Yeah. They make you own at least 3 Ferraris before.
Yeah.
Now, Patek doesn't make you do that, but they know the short list of super collectors.
Well, they release a very small number of watches to these stores, and the stores are going to give those watches to people that spend a lot of money in their stores. It makes sense. And it was like that with Daytonas in Rolex for a long time.
Right.
You couldn't go into a Rolex authorized dealer and get a black dial Daytona.
You still can't.
You still can't.
You still can't walk in because they have created this incredible phony market of their crazy rare.
Yeah.
And
every dealer has 9 of them in the background.
I tell you what, I wish I could get like an ex-employee on here that could tell you how that started, because that watch wasn't really that hot, because in the 90s they were in the stores.
Yeah.
All of a sudden one day I was like, you know what, I want to get a Daytona, and they go, there's a 2-year waiting list. You go, what for? It's a stainless steel.
Yeah.
But if you wanted a gold Daytona, they had 90 in the case.
Yeah.
They created hats off to them.
Yeah.
They created this mysterious market of there are none.
Especially the black dial ones.
Yeah, especially the black dial.
The black dial stainless steel was like, if you could either buy a used one, but literally you couldn't get one. I walked in to Geary's in Beverly Hills, and I was like, you got any Daytonas? They're like, yeah. I go, you got any black dial? And the guy goes, well, yeah, but I mean, not for you. And I'm like, it wasn't even that rude. I was like, yeah, man, I know. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, we set them aside for guys that spend $100,000 a year in here.
Yeah.
And they used to be, you couldn't buy, they were above retail. That was a watch that was above, especially in the 90s, it was more collectible to get the one with the Zenith movement.
Yeah, which eventually they didn't make their own movement on only this watch forever. Yeah,
so they had a Zenith chronograph movement forever, and then once they switched to an in-house movement, the Zenith ones got more collectible. But now you could probably get a black dial one now.
Let me tell you how it works now. So you go into the Rolex store, and you go, looking for a Daytona, and they go, oh man, like a year list. And you go, oh, okay. Well, cool. Just put me on that, will you?
Yeah.
And then hang out for about a half hour. All of a sudden, the guy will come out. I swear to God, this has happened to me twice. And he goes, hey man, I went back and put your name on the list. There's one back there. And we've been calling the next guy on the list.
The guy didn't buy it.
Yeah, he's just, we could sell it to you today. Instantly, they've had one. This has happened to me numerous times. Or if you really wanted one and they're hard to get, if you just bought a low-end Rolex, all of a sudden they could sell you the other one too.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened with the blue and black GMT, which came out, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, the Bruiser.
They call it the Bruiser or the Batman. It was instantly hot. It retailed for $89.50. They were going for as high as like what, 10, 12?
It was crazy. At one point around Christmas, they were $12,000.
Yeah, so I go into Nick Bahindi Jewelers in Glendale Galleria, and I go, I'm thinking of getting a GMT, the regular one. He goes, oh, cool, okay. And I'm looking at it. I go, do you got any of the Batmans? And he goes, well, I got one, but I can sell it to you today, but only today. And I was like, really? Only today? What's going to happen at the end of today? And I was like, how much? He's like, retail. And I was like, yeah, I know. You know why? Because now everyone has that watch.
Yeah.
And now they're going for just slightly under retail.
There was a time when they put out the Milgauss, which is a watch that they put a green crystal on.
Yeah.
And I believe it came out in 07, 6 or something.
Impossible to get because
Impossible.
Apparently the technology of the green crystal was a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And they kept kind of having trouble with it.
They were soft or something.
Yeah, so they were always delayed. So you couldn't get them, and watch collectors were flipping the fuck out.
Well, the watch sold for, at the time, $6,500,
Yeah.
but to get one, $20,000.
Yeah.
And I remember being in Aspen. I was going to Sturgis, and I stopped in their Rolex store there, and the guy goes, we got one for $18,000. And I was like, whoa. And people bought them. And then a year later, they figured out how to make the green crystal, and they were everywhere. I mean, fucking everywhere. And those guys that bought them for $18,000 are just dick in the hand because you can get a good used one for $6,000 now. Mint.
Yeah. And it's a super cool watch. I had the Milgauss without the green crystal. I think it cost me $6,000. I sold it for $5,500.
Yep.
I mean,
our buddy Court McCowan wears one.
He won that.
He won that in a golf tournament or something.
That's actually the non-green crystal Milgauss now.
Oh yeah,
is a really good value.
Yeah,
because you can get those. I saw one as low as $4,500. The Whitedale one is like $4,200, but it is ugly.
Oh yeah, but not when you put the green crystal on it. Wow.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, you can get a normal black dial Milgauss for like $4,500 if you want one.
And that's a phenomenal watch.
Yeah, it's a great movement, and again, it's got the sweet lightning bolt hand.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a rocker like me, it's the watch that makes sense.
Yeah, it looks like...
And no one's wearing it.
It's the AC/DC. Yeah, there is something cool about wearing... Because Rolex, especially in L.A., if you go to certain neighborhoods, you see a million of them.
Millions.
So it doesn't necessarily feel special to wear one. I wear one. I've liked wearing them when I've had them because I'm old, but like when I was young and in my 20s... I always look a little young for my age, so I looked a little bit like a young, poor dirtbag.
Yeah.
So it was sort of cool to me to have a fancy watch. So when I was like, go to meetings or auditions, it was like, hey, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
A guy said it once to me, he goes, I can't, I wear a nice watch? I go, why? He goes, I can't drive my nice car into a meeting.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, fair enough.
Successful.
To me, it was about like contrast. It's like, I dress like a skater. And like filthy fucking clothes or whatever with a salsa stain on them. It was kind of funny to me to have a nice watch.
Well, I think it's the best look. Like when you see a guy who's skating a pool, and he's got just fucking a Dogtown, some Rector shit on back in the day, but he had a sub on. You're like, what?
No, that shit's cool, and it's like, hey man, I got successful doing something cool. What did you do? Get a job, nerd. So even as I get older, because of what I do for a living, when I do get lucky and make a little extra money, I like buying a nice watch. And you and I have talked about this. It's parachutes.
That's it.
Because if you say, okay, a Rolex costs, let's say $5,000, right? If I put $5,000 in the bank, I'm not buying like a mutual fund. I'm not smart enough. Now, would it be smart to do that? Totally.
Yep.
Will I ever do it? Probably not. So if I just put $5,000 in the bank, well, I'm going to whittle it away.
You will.
Taking the girl to dinner, buying sneakers,
some Vans,
skate T-shirts, maybe a skate deck I don't need.
All of a sudden, you're at $2,200.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
So buying, like in this, just recently, that my dog had a thing, and it had some liver disease, and my dog, I have two dogs, they're my best friends, and it wasn't even a question of whether or not I was going to pay for this shit. So it ended up costing $6,500.
Yeah,
which I handed over the money gladly.
Absolutely.
So I sold the watch I sold a watch and some art. And those were just things that I'd bought along the way of anytime I got a little extra money and I wanted to get something cool with it, I bought stuff. And like I sold a piece of art that cost me $1,200 and I got $5,000. And then I bought that date just for $2,000. You sold it for $2,300.
Yep.
And it wasn't about like the profit necessarily, but it was just like I got the money back.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell people over and over. We're lunatics, and we have no we're smart, but we're dumb also.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody recently said, "Hey, I heard at Harley you have bought the most motorcycles ever at Harley," and I said, "Yeah, well, I heard that is true from the Harley finance people."
Yeah,
you know, because I bought them and flipped them and turned them over and everything. And if you look at all the time and the money that was in, I probably was rich at many times in my life. Didn't even know from doing that, from flipping and shit. But I would have been bored as fuck just sitting around like, all right, I've got money in the bank. You need danger to, I think, push you into what you want to do in the corner.
Yeah, I think you just have to, I don't know, I want to enjoy life as much as I can. And because there have been times in my life where I've made a lot of money in a short amount of time because I got lucky and got some job that paid a lot or whatever.
Like on TV?
Yeah.
Or
basically
a commercial
TV
back
job.
when they paid?
Yeah, like a commercial. The most money I've ever made is from a commercial campaign, and they paid me a lot of money in a short amount of time. Now, did I like having that money? Yeah. I wasn't happier necessarily.
Nope.
But I felt a little safer. So, but I realized that having extra money doesn't necessarily make me happy. I need enough so that I feel safe. And then I like stuff. I love, being an artist and having gone to art school and stuff and making art all the time. I'm inspired by looking at things and looking at things that I think are beautiful or well made or well designed. And that's the stuff that gets me excited because it makes me want to do stuff, makes me want to make stuff, makes me want to and even stand-up wise, there's something cool about like, oh man, I'm going to buy this Ironheart flannel or these Ironheart jeans or whatever, and like these will look cool on stage.
Yeah.
Or like this watch will look cool on stage or like whatever it is, these glasses. So like the stuff I'm into and the stuff I buy, a lot of it's, I just like being surrounded by things I find visually inspiring.
And also quality.
Yeah.
And a lot of times handmade.
Yeah.
And most important in this world of entertainment, looking different than the 9 dudes that went on before you and after you.
Yeah, I mean, especially the way I look. I look like a lot of comedians.
Oh, I saw a guy Sunday at the Neil show and thought he was you.
Yeah.
So, it's funny.
But yeah, for me to stand out, if you go to any comedy show in LA, you're going to see 3 dudes on a lamp that look just like me, except they're going to be wearing hoodies and garbage pants and shoes that aren't that cool.
There you go.
So I'm like, look, and at this point also, I'm a little spoiled.
Yeah.
To where I've owned a few things that are really well made, and it ruins me for buying cheap shit.
Totally.
Like I last year got a job, and I kind of was like, I'm gonna go buy a nice flannel. So I bought the purple Ironheart Western flannel.
Fuck.
Not cheap.
Nope.
But that fucking thing is like a suit of armor. I've worn it more than I've worn anything. It's still in perfect shape. I wore it to Europe in the winter. It's all I needed. I was just in New York. It was 30 degrees. That's all I needed. And that thing is so durable and well made. I don't ever buy normal like flannel shirts from the mall because they just feel like shit. They don't fit right.
And also they don't fit.
Yeah, they don't fit.
And they're made
right.
of wool instead of cotton, so they itch.
So a flannel from a normal store is $50. Well, in any given year, I probably would have bought 2. Well, in the 5 years at least I'll own this flannel, I would have spent what it cost on bad ones during that time.
Yeah, and they hang in your closet, and you don't ever wear them again. And also, once again, you get in a little trouble. That thing goes on eBay. You get $250 for it because they only made like 100.
Yeah, exactly. And that thing is good.
Oh God, I got the same one,
dude. It's bad.
And then I've got the blue one, and it's funny. Last night I was wearing the blue one, and I'm obsessed with leather jackets, and I mean obsessed with leather. But when I put on the flannel, I go, this is really all I like to wear. I can move in it. It looks great. It fits great.
Makes you seem a little like when I wear mine, I'm a little less fat in it.
Oh, yeah, they're slim cut.
It's thick.
Yeah.
So it holds it in a little, guys. Like I hate soft T-shirts because they show off your boobs too.
Oh my God, it's so rotten. I had one, and a guy took a picture of me in the main room, and it was Titty City.
Dude,
my God.
Give me a thick Hanes beefy tee, please.
God, dude, I look so bad.
I'm not trying to wear an X-ray. Knock it off.
Well, I like to wear the thin shirt underneath the flannel. Snapped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, gross.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the Rolex releases, and then we'll cut out. So Rolex this year released what I would call, a lot of people call their dream watch their grail watch.
Yeah.
This watch that came out 2 days ago is absolutely the Delray grail watch.
It's fire.
It is the best looking watch they've put out in, I don't know, probably...
It's at least a decade, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Daytona, and instead of it's stainless steel, which they never fucking updated, like we said, since the 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
They put a ceramic bezel black on it, and they gave you the white face with the black subdials, which is straight up the Panda.
They only really changed because they didn't make the subdial solid black. It's got a black ring, and then the bezel's black. So it's still the same case and movement and dial of the old Daytona. They just changed the bezel color. But it looks like the 70s Daytona. I believe the number is a 6263 or a 6565.
Right.
And it reminds you of that style.
Well, the white one right now, stainless steel, the subdials are silver.
Yeah.
So this is black. So you immediately get the Panda look with the red writing. Yeah. And then it's just...
Very few Rolexes have red type.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they got the Yachtmaster.
Yachtmaster, the this, and... Well, the Explorer doesn't have red type, but it has a red hand.
Right. So this watch, they dropped it, and immediately I went to the Rolex forum.
People flipped out.
The website almost crashed.
Yeah, I mean, all I saw on the guys I follow on Instagram were just the word "finally." Yeah. Like, dudes have been wanting this to happen for a decade at least.
Yeah.
They've just been like, please just put a black bezel on it. Please.
And what we're saying is I really feel that Rolex with social media now, they cannot hide anymore from people's feelings. I think back in the day, a guy would be in his basement and he would write a letter. What the hell are you guys doing? Or an email.
Yeah.
But now with Instagram and Photoshop and Twitter, people are making the watches on Photoshop that they want to see. And you can see there'll be 2,000, 20,000 likes, whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually you cannot ignore money on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. This watch is going to be huge for them.
Huge.
Because if you're and they didn't raise the price really.
No.
So every guy who wants to buy a Daytona wants this one now.
Yep.
So that's and guys who probably didn't want a Daytona before or were going to buy a pre-owned one, because you can find a pre-owned. What's the retail on this now?
This one's going to be, they're saying 13,800 out the door.
Okay, $13,800. You can find
700 more.
You can find a used Daytona between the years of 1995 and 2015 for $10,500
all day long, and they're mint with box and papers.
Yeah, they're brand fucking new.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: if you're in the market for a watch that's $10,000, you have a lot of goddamn money.
Yeah.
Or you're Dean and you're going to leverage your entire life.
You got to do trades and shit.
Exactly.
You know?
So you have a lot of money. So I know it sounds like, well, you're talking about $10,000. Who gives a fuck? But here's the thing: if you've decided to spend $10,000 on a watch, $3 extra grand to get this new one isn't going to change your life, and you're probably going to do it. Also,
let me give you a couple of serious upgrades. What Rolex did over the last few years, they made their own
in-house
movement for the Daytona, and they upgraded the lume to this blue lume that fucking glows for a solid 24 hours, where the
it's
old
crazy.
loom a lot of times doesn't even work anymore. And if it does, it works for about 6 minutes and it's green and it goes away.
Yeah, the
So
new loom is crazy.
the new loom, and then the new Easy Link. Your wrist changes throughout the day, the size.
Yeah, it swells.
So they've got this thing where it changes by a quarter of an inch or whatever instantly.
Yeah.
And so all of these upgrades on the last 5 years of Rolex.
But a lot of that's come from Tudor.
Yeah.
Because Tudor, the Pelagos,
Yeah.
came out and had this spring adjustable bracelet,
It's incredible.
which is insanity. So good, because then you don't have to be adjusting it.
You don't touch it.
Yeah, you don't have to scratch it up by because like I adjust my watch all the time. I'm taking out a Swiss Army knife. I'm popping things in and out. You scratch the bezel or scratch the lugs or whatever. And it's these little advancements that just make them easier to wear. It's what I mean. You and I talk about this a lot. The more and more I as time goes on, I just want to go buy a new one. Like I just want to buy a new Tudor and a new Rolex, and I'm done. Then you go to I'd go to like an authorized dealer, and then there's no worries of who had this, was it stolen, is it real? And while it is more expensive, the peace of mind and what you get now with
The peace of mind,
the
man.
5-year warranty, 7-year service thing, it for the extra money, I think it's negligible. It's not that big a difference. If it's gonna save you more than $2,000, that may be a thing.
Right.
Like for what we've talked about, I'm maybe thinking about getting the difference is like $2,000.
Yep.
But like what you get with these new ones is so badass.
Oh my God, it's so great.
And there's more models. Like, dude, the Air King to me was always too small. The old model was 34 millimeters.
Yeah.
It was like it usually it's the cheapest used Rolex you can buy.
Yep.
You can find an Air King for $1,800, and if you're a girl, that's the perfect size for a female's wrist. It looks kick ass,
Yep.
and they're inexpensive. But so I always liked them, and I liked the fact that it said Air King. I thought that was a cool name, but they were too small for me. So, but now the new one, what is it? 41 millimeters.
They brought the Air King back in case people didn't know.
It's part of the sport. It's basically a sport model now.
Yeah, it's crazy, the Air King. Let me get the size real quick.
It's 40 or it's either 3940 or 41 millimeters, which is the same size as a Milgauss.
It's got a green hand and green writing.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then it has these numbers on the dial.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking outside the box for, it's 40 millimeter.
Okay.
Outside the box for Rolex. This is unheard of, this dial that they made.
Oh, it's got a green hand.
Green hand, green writing with
Fuck.
the yellow crown.
Yeah.
It's straight up the shamrock.
I mean,
Like,
this thing looks like
Oh.
a super simple, utilitarian, stainless steel, badass watch. The thing looks tough as hell.
Oh,
Dial's
God.
great. I mean, it looks like it's what the Explorer 1 should have been when they changed the size.
it really is a home run. It kind of looks like a school clock.
Yeah.
Like when you're in school.
It looks like a Porsche speedometer.
And I fucked up by not getting the price of this watch. I wanted to know for you guys because I don't think it's going to be that much. Last year they released those perpetuals or whatever.
Yeah.
And what were those, 55?
No, yeah, I think they were 5,800.
Right.
Which here's the deal, you guys. That's okay. Retail on this watch is going to be successful, but not like crazy popular and in demand.
Right.
So as soon as this thing comes out, about 6 months later, if say it's 5,800, say it's $6,000, you're gonna be able to buy it on the gray market from a reasonably reputable.
48.
Yeah, $5,000,
Yeah.
5,500. It's like the Explorer 1 when they redid it. It retailed for $7,000. Well, they're $5,000 all day.
Yep. Oh God, you can get one from the 90s for 3,500.
Yeah, but that's the smaller size.
Right. Okay. They redid the Explorer 1.
They fixed it.
They fixed it a few years ago. Explorer 1 was 36 millimeters, the entire history of
Yeah.
the Explorer. And in the 90s, I bought an Explorer 1 for $3,000
Yeah.
in the 90s. I bought it on time at Benbridge. They let you pay it was like fucking $40 a month for years with no interest.
The old Explorer 1 was a watch that guys liked to get because it was like didn't feel as feminine as a Datejust and was smaller than a Sub, and it was just like a cool sort of masculine watch that wasn't huge.
And let me tell you what happened.
And they're really reasonable priced.
There's a Japanese band called X. They're in Japan, not the X in the States.
Right.
And there's a famous guitar player in that band, and he bought the Explorer one when they redid it in like 92 or whenever it came out again.
Right.
You know, this newer, the 36, you know.
30, they put just the only difference is they put metal surrounds around the markers.
He wore it on TV, and it made this watch go through the roof. So I got it for $3. I sold it for $5.
Wow.
You know, for a while you couldn't get one. They made it like the Daytona.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you're the waiting list for that.
Yeah, you'd see them for 42 sometimes for a long time. Now they're back to 36.
Right.
But they remade it like what, 5 years ago?
I think it was like 3 years ago.
They put it was 39 millimeter case, which is a fucking great size. In fact, the old size of the Rolex Submariner 5513 was 39 millimeters.
Right.
It's a perfect size for me. I love it. It's a great size watch, but there was something wrong with it.
Yeah.
You couldn't quite put your finger on it. But
And we were all fired up. I was like,
dude, I was
that's
like,
the
this
watch
is it.
right there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I found it. This is a perfect watch. I'll wear this till I'm dead. And then you'd look at the dial and you were like, what is wrong? What is
couldn't figure
wrong
it
with the
out.
dial? The proportions felt off. And it was because the hands were too short. They used the old hands from the 36 millimeter model on a 39 millimeter dial. So it just looked odd. And the hour hand looked stubby and short. And then the numeric markers, the 9, the 3, and the 6, were too big.
Yeah.
And felt like they were too far apart.
It looked like a fake.
Yeah, it looked fake, and it looked a little fat and oblong. It didn't look sleek at all.
And it's known as the Stubby now.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because it'll be worth money probably.
Yeah, probably. So now what they did was they made the hands bigger, and and I'm not positive they even changed
They didn't change the numbers.
but now they glow.
They glow. They made them, it's unbelievable. The numbers never glowed. So for years.
Well, the old printed ones glowed, but they weren't, not the metal surround
but
ones.
the last reissues, you'd look at your watch and it'd be glowing, but not the numbers. So the 3, 6, 9 glow now. And besides the Daytona, I think this is the most epic watch they've come out with in years.
It's so simple and classic looking, and the size of it especially. For a man, it is a perfect stainless steel watch.
And it's not something that blows up. When you're walking down the street, they don't go, oh, Mr. Rolex. You don't even know what it is.
That's why I've noticed that is a lot of the reason why the Explorer and the Explorer 1, why the Explorer 1 is popular is because it's a Rolex that doesn't like scream, hey, look at my Rolex.
Right. And which, by the way, I want to say something. The Explorer 2 is now the last steel bezel watch.
Oh, wow.
Because, they went to ceramic on this. Unless they're going to still offer the Daytona in the steel bezel, which I don't know why they would have Daytona stainless steel with steel bezel and with
ceramic.
the ceramic bezel, right?
Yeah,
you think they're going to sell both? None of us know yet.
Yeah, I wonder. You got to see what's going to actually hit the stores.
Right. So those are our loves of this release. All the other releases are pretty much, other than they got a new date, just 41.
Well, Grey Dial Yachtmaster is pretty cool.
Grey Dial Yachtmaster is
blue
killer.
Hand.
With the blue hand, it is pretty much real. That's another outside the box watch for them.
Yeah.
And then they also did it in rose gold and stainless steel.
That dial's crazy looking.
Yeah, right. It really is crazy.
Like bronzy brown color.
Yeah. So
again, if you think we're crazy, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
To spend this much money on a watch, but it's a specific hobby of taste. Neither Dean and I have any money. So we're not rich guys talking about rich guy shit. We save up for this stuff.
Yep. Or you go to fucking Ben Bridge and you get they just give you the watch and you just make monthly payments.
They make payments.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
but again, if Rolex is you find annoyingly out of your price range, I cannot recommend Tudor more.
Oh, God. And,
so good. Dude.
And if you want to go, if you live in L.A. and you really want to go see the Tudors, there's a great store in Beverly Hills, a Tudor store. And then if you...
try watches on. That's you got to try them on.
Try them on. And also don't freak out about the weight or size at first, because after a week you won't even notice that stuff.
Yeah. But again, if you want to start out getting a nice watch and not spend a ton, an old Rolex Datejust, man, all day.
And if you're looking for some used Rolexes, it's of course always scary on eBay and stuff. just go to the Watch Rolex forum. There's tons of guys on there that have huge reviews and that you can trust. Or go to a store that some of your friends might have shopped at. And I recommend, I like Philippe's in Beverly Hills. And for new Rolexes, I like, what's my place called in Koreatown?
I don't know what it's called.
God, I forget the name right now.
Yeah,
that's stupid. Anyway,
they don't let you in anyways.
Yeah, you gotta
they can't. Good luck showing up there. They wouldn't let me. If I walked in there, they wouldn't let me in.
They wouldn't let me in. It was hilarious.
It's a secret spot.
But they are an actual good store once you get in. So anyway, thanks for tuning into another handmade episode. And thanks, Kev, for doing it.
No, my pleasure.
And we'll see. We'll be back again in 2017. Thanks for tuning in to Let There Be Talk.